The rain didn't feel normal that night. It wasn't just falling. It was pressing, like the sky had moved too low and forgot how to rise again. I was on dispatch duty alone. Night shift, low traffic, mostly silence between routine check-ins. Then at 2:13 a.m., everything changed. The emergency line lit up. No delay, no warning tone, just an instant connection. I picked it up. Emergency dispatch, what's your location? Static. Then a voice came through. Calm. Too calm for someone calling in a storm. Dispatch. I think I'm inside your building. I frowned slightly. I looked around the station instinctively. Empty hallway behind the glass. Flashing monitors in front of me. Sir, confirm your location again, I said. A pause. Then the voice continued. It's raining inside your control room. My hand stopped moving. I looked up. Ceiling dry. No leaks. No water. Everything normal. Sir, that is not possible, I replied. Another pause. Then, I'm standing behind you. My body froze for half a second. I didn't turn immediately. That's something they teach you in dispatch training. Never react to panic calls physically. I kept my voice steady. Describe your surroundings. The voice answered instantly. I see your monitors. The blue glow. The empty chair beside you. My throat tightened slightly because the chair beside me was empty. Always empty. I slowly turned my head. Nothing. Just the station wall. But something about the silence felt different now. He continued speaking. I can hear your pen moving. I stopped writing. Completely. The rain outside hit the windows harder, like it had noticed the conversation. Sir, I said carefully, are you inside the station or outside it? A pause. Then, I don't think there's a difference anymore. I leaned forward slightly. Checked the system log. No location data. No GPS ping. Just voice feed. Direct. Unfiltered. Identify your emergency, I said. The voice lowered slightly. Not softer. Closer. There's someone sitting in your chair now. My stomach tightened. I looked again. Same empty chair. Same dim light. But now I noticed something I hadn't before. The chair was slightly turned. Just a few degrees. Like someone had stood up from it recently. I swallowed. Sir, I need you to stay calm, I said. The voice replied immediately. I am calm. You're the one who keeps looking back. My breath slowed. I hadn't realized I was doing that. I forced myself to face forward again. The monitors flickered once. Just once. Then stabilized. Tell me your name, I said. A pause. Then, you already logged it. I checked the system immediately. No active callers listed. No name. No record. But the line was still open. Still alive. Still listening. Outside, the rain got heavier. So heavy it sounded like it was hitting metal instead of glass. The voice spoke again. You should close the window behind you. I froze. There is no window behind me. Only a wall. I stood up slowly. Walked toward the glass divider. Looked behind the station wall reflection. Nothing. Just my own tired face. But the voice continued. It's not the window you think it is. My hand tightened. Stop speaking in riddles, I said. A pause. Then, I'm not the one speaking in them. The radio behind me crackled, but no frequency was active. Still it was transmitting. I turned slowly. The radio light was on. I hadn't touched it, and through it, I heard the rain differently now, like it was forming patterns, like it was repeating words. I leaned closer. The voice on the call came back one final time. Very soft, very close. I think I'm in your reflection now. Then silence. Complete silence. The line disconnected itself. But I didn't move, because my reflection in the monitor was still holding the phone to its ear. Even though I wasn't. I didn't report the incident immediately. That's the truth. Because I needed confirmation that what I heard wasn't just fatigue. But then the Weather Channel started speaking. Not broadcasting. Speaking. It happened during a routine frequency scan. Just static at first. Then a voice cut through. Calm. Professional. Weather control tone. But wrong. This is regional weather advisory. Heavy rainfall expected inside Station 4. I frowned. Inside, I muttered. I adjusted the frequency. It continued. Visibility will decrease inside corridors. Electrical systems may fail inside memory zones. I stopped breathing for a second. Memory zones? That's not meteorological language. I switched channels again, but every frequency carried the same voice now, not overlapping, repeating, like the entire radio spectrum had agreed on one speaker. I keyed the mic, dispatched to weather control, confirmed transmission source. A pause. Then, "You are the source." I leaned back. "Stop that," I said firmly, but the voice didn't react to tone, only presence. "Rain intensity correlates with your attention," it continued. I looked outside. The rain was heavier again, like it was responding. "No," I whispered. The voice came back immediately. "Yes." I shut the radio speaker off, but it didn't stop. It continued through the wall speakers, through the monitors, even to the phone line still hanging open from earlier. I looked at the call log. The previous caller's line was still open, but now it was labeled weather feed active. I froze. That wasn't possible. The voice shifted again. More personal now. Less broadcast. "Stop checking systems. You're dividing the signal." I stood up slowly. "What signal?" I asked. A pause. Then, "The one you are standing inside." My throat tightened. I walked toward the window. Rain was hitting harder now, but something was forming in it. Patterns. Lines. Like roads trying to exist in midair and failing. The voice continued. "You noticed the first caller. That was only entry level." I turned slightly. Entry to what? The weather voice responded immediately. To being recorded. My chest tightened. Outside, the parking lot lights flickered. Just once. And in that flicker, I saw something standing in the rain. But only for a second. When the light returned, it was gone. I stepped back. The radio behind me crackled again. And now the weather voice sounded closer, like it had moved inside the room. "You should stop looking outside." I frowned. "Why?" A pause. Then, "Because it's starting to look back." The monitors flickered, and every screen in the station suddenly displayed the same image, the outside rain, but from a different angle, like something was filming the building from within the storm. I stepped closer. The feed zoomed slightly on its own, and I saw it clearly now. A silhouette standing in the rain, facing the station, not moving, waiting. The voice whispered again. "That's the weather you created." I stepped back quickly. "That's impossible," I said, but the rain outside responded instantly. It hit the glass harder, like agreement. The voice returned one final time. Soft, final. "When it reaches full visibility, you'll be inside it." The frequency cut out, but the rain didn't stop. It only got clearer, like something was forming shape inside it, watching, learning the layout of the station. The first report came from Unit 6, then Unit 3, then 5 more in under 10 minutes, all saying the same thing. "There's a road appearing near the flood line." At first, I thought it was routing error, but then I saw the map, and it wasn't an error. A new road had formed, on the live system, not registered, not built, just there, curving through areas that should be waterlogged. I leaned closer. "Confirm visual," I said into comms. Unit 6 responded. "It only appears when headlights hit the rain." I frowned. That makes no sense. Then another voice cut in. "We're driving on it right now." I switched feeds, saw their dash cam, rain falling heavily, but the road was visible only in motion, like it existed only when observed through movement. I swallowed. "Mark coordinates," I said, but the system auto-filled them. Already known, already logged, as if the road had been here longer than the station. Then Unit 3 spoke again. "It's changing direction." "Roads don't change direction," I said. A pause. Then, "Not normal ones." Static followed. Then the feed distorted slightly, and I saw something I shouldn't have. The road wasn't leading through land. It was looping back toward the station. I froze. Units, stop driving. I ordered. No response. Just engine sound, rain, and something like whispering through tires on wet asphalt. Then Unit 6 came back. We already passed the station twice. I stood up immediately. What do you mean twice? Silence. Then, the road doesn't let us leave its version. I looked at the live map again. The road was now encircling the station, slowly, like it was drawing a boundary, a perimeter. I felt my pulse rising. This is not real, I whispered, but the system updated automatically. Road status. Confirm existing only during rainfall. I froze. Outside, rain intensified again, and through the window, I saw headlights, approaching, but no vehicles, just light, moving along a road that wasn't there until it touched the storm, and the radio behind me clicked softly, and a final message came through from Unit 6. We think the road is trying to bring us back to dispatch. Then silence, only rain, only movement, and the growing feeling that the station was no longer where it used to be. The final alert didn't come from dispatch. It came from the system itself. Automated recall active. I stared at the screen. What recall? I muttered. Then the original call log opened. The first caller. The one from Chapter 1. It was still active, but now labeled. Source unknown, inside network. My throat tightened. That's impossible, I said, but the system didn't care. It played the audio again. The same calm voice. I'm inside your building. But now I noticed something new. Background noise. Not rain. Not wind. Typing. My typing. I froze. The voice continued. I can hear your systems trying to find me. I stood up slowly, looked around the empty station. The monitors flickered. Every screen now showed the same thing. The dispatch room from inside, but slightly wrong, like it was being viewed from a memory that didn't belong to me. I whispered, "Who are you?" The voice responded instantly. "You already answered me." I checked system logs. No external caller ID, just internal loop. Then the radio clicked behind me, and another voice spoke. My voice, saying, "Dispatch, what's your emergency?" I froze, because I didn't say that. Not now. Not ever. The original voice returned. Soft. Final. You're not receiving calls anymore. I swallowed hard. Then what am I doing? I asked. A pause. Then, you are becoming one. The monitors flickered violently, and every system in the station switched to live broadcast mode. Not incoming. Outgoing. All channels active. All frequencies open. And I realized something cold and final. Every call I had answered tonight was still ongoing somewhere, even the ones I thought had ended. The voice came one last time, right behind me. No radio now, no system, just presence. You never close a line. I turned slowly. The dispatch headset on the desk was already on, even though I had never moved. And through it, I heard the rain again. But now it wasn't outside anymore. It was inside the system, inside the calls, inside me. And the last thing I saw on the monitor was my own face answering a call that hadn't been received yet. The station wasn't supposed to be active. That's what the file said. Abandoned, do not use. But at 2 a.m., it lit up anyway. Every screen, every channel, every frequency, like something had remembered it existed. I was the only dispatcher on duty that night. Temporary assignment. Remote coverage for rural emergency overflow. Boring shift. Or it was supposed to be, until the system auto-switched me to Station 9, the abandoned one. I frowned when I saw it. Why is this active? I muttered. No answer. Just the system pinging itself again and again like it was confirming its own decision. Station 9 online. I leaned forward, checked the registry. It should have been blacklisted years ago. Structural collapse. No power grid. No personnel. But the feed was live. And worse, it had incoming channels. I clicked one. Static. Then a voice. Dispatch! We need assistance at Station 9. I froze. I whispered, that's not possible, because Station 9 was supposed to be the origin of silence. Not calls. I responded carefully. Confirm your location. A pause. Then, we are already inside. My hand stopped moving. I looked around my own dispatch room. Empty, normal, safe, but the screen flickered again. Another call opened. Same station, same coordinates, same voice. We can hear you now. I swallowed hard. Who is this? I asked. No answer. Just breathing. Very close breathing. Like someone standing behind a microphone too long. I leaned back slightly. Checked the map. Station 9 was glowing on the system, but not in one place. In multiple. Overlapping. Like it couldn't decide where it physically existed. Dispatch override. I said, shut down all external feeds to Station 9. The system hesitated. That's the only way I can describe it. It didn't reject. It paused, then responded. Cannot disconnect active building. I frowned. That's not a real error message. I muttered. The radio beside me clicked, even though I hadn't touched it, and a new voice came through. Not the caller. Not dispatch protocol. Something calmer. Older. You should not have opened the channel. I froze. Who are you? I asked. A pause. Then, we used to take calls here. My throat tightened slightly. This station is abandoned, I said. The voice responded instantly. So were the calls. The lights in my room flickered once. Just once. Then stabilized. But the system feed changed. Now Station 9 wasn't empty anymore. On the monitor, I saw a control room. Dim. Old equipment. Flickering lights. And a dispatcher sitting at a desk. Working. Just like me. My breath slowed. That's not real, I whispered. But the dispatcher on screen turned slightly and looked directly into the camera. Like it heard me. The radio clicked again. The same voice returned. Stop watching it directly. I frowned. Why? A pause. Then, because it notices when you do. I looked away from the screen instinctively, but it was too late. The system had already updated. Station 9 status. Observed. Active response initiated. My stomach dropped. What did I just activate? I whispered. No answer. Just static building slowly in every channel. And somewhere inside that static, I swear I heard someone typing. Like they were already writing my shift report. After Station 9 activated, everything changed. Not all at once. Slowly. Like reality was adjusting its memory. The first new call came at 2:17 a.m. No number. No location tag. Just incoming unknown origin. I hesitated before answering. That's mistake number 1 in dispatch. You always answer. No matter what. Emergency dispatch. I said, silence. Then, I think I'm calling from inside your building. My chest tightened slightly. I turned around slowly. Empty room. Same chair. Same monitors. Same hum. Sir, I said carefully, this is secure dispatch station. Please confirm your location. A pause. Then, you just look behind you. My hand froze midair. I slowly turned back forward. Identify yourself, I said. The voice didn't respond immediately. Instead, another call appeared. Same system. Same channel. Different voice. We are all calling from the same place. I frowned. What place? And then both lines answered at once. Station 9. I went cold, because I hadn't routed any external call to Station 9. Yet every incoming feed now pointed there. I checked logs. They didn't exist. No origin traces. No network entry points. Just calls appearing fully formed, like they had already happened somewhere else and were now repeating here. Dispatch, I said firmly. Initiate trace route. The system responded instantly. Trace not possible. Reason. Source is a destination. I leaned back. That makes no sense, I muttered. The radio clicked again. That same older voice returned. You're collecting echoes now. I frowned. Echoes of what? A pause. Then calls that never finished. My screen flickered, and I saw something new. Multiple calls stacking. Not ringing. Not waiting. Just already connected. And every one of them was saying the same thing. I'm inside your station. I stood up quickly. What is this? I asked out loud. No answer from dispatch system, only breathing from every channel. At once, then one voice broke through. Clear, close. I can see your desk now. I froze because I hadn't told anyone what my desk looked like. I leaned toward the mic. Who are you? I asked again. A pause. Then, we are what happens when calls don't disconnect. The lights flickered again, and for half a second, I saw movement in the reflection of my monitor. Someone sitting in the empty chair behind me. When I turned, nothing, but the system didn't reset. It only added. Observation confirmed. I swallowed hard. This is impossible, I whispered, and then the system replied. No, it's just ongoing. The rain started inside the building. That's the part that broke my sense of logic first. Not outside, inside. On the monitors. At first, I thought it was a visual glitch, a weather overlay error, but then I felt it. Cold droplets hitting my desk. I froze. Looked up. Ceiling dry. Perfectly intact. But water was falling anyway. In patches. Like the room was remembering rain it never had. I stood up slowly. This is not real, I muttered, but the water didn't care. It kept falling, only in specific zones. Desk, floor near the chair. Inside the reflection of a monitor. I touched the desk. Wet, cold. I pulled my hand back instantly. No! I whispered. The radio clicked, and the older voice returned again. You are overlapping systems. I frowned. Overlapping with systems? A pause. Then, outside weather and inside memory. I looked at the monitor. The storm radar was clear. No rain above Station 9. But inside the room, it was pouring. I walked toward the glass wall. Water was dripping down it now, but only from the inside surface, not the outside, like the room had its own weather layer. I whispered, this isn't possible, and then the system responded softly. It is when the station remembers flooding. My chest tightened. What does that mean? I asked. No answer. Just rain increasing slowly. Inside. Only inside. Then I saw something in the water pooling on the floor. A reflection. Not mine. A second control room. Same layout. Same desk. Same chair. But darker. And in that reflection, someone was sitting at my desk. Working. I stepped back. The reflection moved closer. Not mirroring me. Approaching me. The radio whispered again. Stop looking at the wet surfaces. I frowned. Why? A pause. Then, because they're recording you. The water on my desk rippled, even though nothing touched it. And for a moment, I saw my own face inside it, blinking a second later than I did. It started with typing. Not mine, not system input, actual typing. From inside the walls. Slow, controlled, like someone was responding to every action I took. I stopped working. Listen, the sound moved, not randomly, deliberately, from console to console. I whispered, is someone here? No answer. Then, a voice from the intercom, but not the radio, not external, internal. This is Dispatch 9. I froze. That's not possible, I said. The voice replied instantly. I'm your backup. My throat tightened. I don't have backup, I said. A pause. Then, you do now. I slowly turned toward the empty second console. The chair was pulled out slightly, just like before. But now, it had warmth. I could feel it. The system log updated again. Second operator active. I stepped back. Who are you? I asked. The voice responded softly. I'm the shift that stayed. My breath slowed. What shift? And then, the one you left running. I felt my stomach drop because I realized something. The station wasn't abandoned. It was paused, and I had resumed it. The monitors flickered, and suddenly I saw myself on screen, sitting at the desk, working, but I was standing. My mind went cold. That's not me, I whispered. The voice responded immediately. It is just Earlier, I turned toward the empty chair. It was no longer empty. Not fully. A shape was forming. Not physical. Not clear. But present enough to feel like a person becoming visible. The intercom clicked again. Final message. You are not alone in dispatch anymore. And I swear, I heard another headset being placed on the desk beside mine. Even though I hadn't moved, the backup request didn't come from me. It came from Station 9 itself. Automated emergency broadcast active. I stared at the screen. No! I whispered, but it ignored me. Multiple units were dispatched automatically. All routes leading to Station 9. All arriving at the same coordinates. I tried to cancel them. System rejected. Reason. Call origin is internal. My chest tightened. Internal? I muttered. Then the radio spoke one last time. Calm. Final. You called them already. I froze. What are you talking about? I asked. A pause. Then, every call you answered tonight created another copy of the station. My stomach dropped. That's impossible. But outside, I saw headlights approaching. One, then two, then more. Backup units arriving. But something was wrong. They all stopped at the same point. Didn't enter. Just stayed outside. Static on their radios filled my room. And then, one of them transmitted. We found Station 9. I leaned closer. Where is it? I asked into the mic. Silence. Then, it's not where buildings should be. I looked at my monitor. Station 9 feed. Empty again. But now, it was showing me, from outside, standing inside, answering calls that hadn't arrived yet. My breathing slowed. This can't be happening, I whispered. The radio answered softly. It already is. Then all external feeds went dark. One by one, backup units. Gone. Not disconnected. Just removed from signal reality. I stood alone in the control room. Or what I thought was alone. The second chair behind me creaked slightly. And a voice, now fully clear, spoke from it. You can stop answering now. I turned slowly. Nothing fully visible. But the presence was undeniable. I whispered, what happens if I stop? A pause. Then no one will know the station is still open. The monitors flickered one last time, and the system updated. Station 9 status. Permanently online. I stepped back slowly, because I finally understood. The backup wasn't coming to save me. They were coming because I had already become part of the network. And as the final screen dimmed, I saw a new operator login appear. Waiting. Already active. Using my name. It started with a call that shouldn't have repeated. At 1:14 a.m. Emergency evacuation. Sector 6 flood risk. Immediate response required. Standard tone. Automated voice. Nothing unusual. I logged it. Closed it. Moved on. But 17 minutes later, it came again. Same call. Same voice. Only one difference. This time, it sounded closer, like it wasn't coming from the system anymore. It was coming from the room. I frowned, checked the log. Duplicate alert. I muttered. System didn't agree. No duplicate detected. My hands paused. That's not possible, I said quietly. Then it happened again. 1:31 a.m. Emergency evacuation. Sector 6 flood risk. Immediate response required. Same words. But now the voice had a small crack in it, like someone had spoken too long, without stopping. I leaned back, looked at the speaker unit. It was silent, but the sound hadn't come from it. It came from every device at once. Phone, radio, monitor, even the emergency light panel hummed the last word. Required. I swallowed. All right, what's going on? I whispered. No answer. Just the system auto-logging it again. But this time I noticed something strange. The coordinates were changing slightly each cycle, not randomly, like they were shifting closer to my location. Minute by minute, I zoomed in. My stomach tightened. Sector 6 was supposed to be 30 kilometers away. Now it was 29, then 28. I stood up. That's not how coordinates work. I muttered. The radio clicked. No one touched it. and the evacuation call came again. But this time, it didn't start with a system voice. It started with breathing, slow, wet, like someone standing behind a drowned microphone. Then the message, emergency evacuation. You are still inside Sector 6. I froze. What? I whispered. The voice paused, then corrected itself. Correction, Sector 6 is inside you. My chest tightened. I stepped back from the console. The lights flickered once. Not outside, inside the screen. The map glitched, and for half a second, I saw water covering the entire grid. Not rain, flood, but not just outside. Inside buildings, inside rooms, inside stations, including mine. I blinked hard. It was gone, but the call returned again. 17 minutes later, exactly on time. But now the tone had changed. It sounded familiar, like my own voice trying to imitate a system alert. Evacuation required, it said softly. You're still working inside flooded infrastructure. I whispered, stop. The system replied instantly, cannot stop active evacuation loop. I frowned. What loop? A pause. Then, processing memory of last response. My stomach dropped. What does that mean? The screen flickered again, and I saw something new. A record, not a call log, a memory log, showing previous shift events. But I had never seen those entries before. They showed me answering the same call, over and over, each time slightly different, each time closer to panic, each time ending with water appearing on my desk. I stepped back. No, I whispered. That didn't happen. But the system responded softly. It will. The evacuation call came again, closer this time, not from speakers. From behind me, they stopped responding after entering the flood zone. That was the official report. But the radios never went silent. That's what I noticed first. Unit 14 entered Sector 6 at 2:03 a.m. At 2:11 a.m., they reported water level rising faster than expected. Roads are still visible but unstable. Normal enough. Then silence for 6 minutes. Then road still continues. I frowned. Copy that. I said into the mic. No response. Then another transmission. Same unit. Road still continues. Visibility low. But we are still driving. I leaned forward. Unit 14, confirm your status. Silence. Then, we are still driving. My stomach tightened. That's not a status report. I muttered. The system flagged it as active. No distress marker. No emergency tone. Just continuation. At 2:19 a.m., Unit 9 entered. At 2:21 a.m., same message. We are still driving. I checked the map. Both units had entered flooded roads, but something was wrong. The roads they were reporting didn't exist on any official map layer. I zoomed in. Nothing. Just blank terrain. I whispered. Were they driving? The radio clicked, and Unit 14 responded. We are driving where the road remembers being. My fingers froze. What does that mean? I asked. No reply. Just engine noise. But it sounded wrong. Like water inside metal. Like wheels turning in something soft. At 2:27 a.m., Unit 14 transmitted again. We see lights ahead. Pause. Then, they are still driving. I frowned. Who is they? I asked. The radio crackled. Then multiple voices overlapped. All missing units. All at once. We are all still driving. I stood up. Stop transmitting nonsense. I said sharply. The system responded instantly. No signal loss detected. All units active. I froze. That's impossible. I whispered, because on the screen, they were marked missing. Confirmed loss, but still transmitting. Still alive in the system. Still reporting movement. Still driving. At 2:33 a.m., one unit changed tone. Unit 9. It sounded closer. Too close. Dispatch, it said softly. Yes. I answered. Long pause. Then, we are passing your station now. I turned toward the window. Empty road outside. Dry. Still. Nothing moving, but the radio continued. And we will pass it again in 17 minutes. My breath slowed. What? I whispered. The system updated automatically. Cycle detected. Then it added. Units are no longer moving through space. Only through report intervals. I stepped back slowly. That doesn't make sense, I said. The radio answered quietly. It will when you stop checking the map. The first drop of water came from my headset. I thought it was sweat, until it wasn't. It fell again. Cold. Real. I pulled the headset away instantly. Looked at it. Dry. Perfectly fine. I frowned. That's not possible. I muttered. Then the radio clicked. And I heard it. Water. Not outside. Inside transmission. Like someone speaking through submerged air. I leaned forward. Dispatch. Confirm audio clarity. I said. No answer. Just water bubbling through static. Then a voice. Soft. Distant. We are still transmitting underwater. I froze. We don't have underwater units. I said. A pause. Then, you do now. I checked the system. All active channels showed dry conditions. No flooding alerts. No water zones. Nothing. But the audio, it was drowning. Slowly. Like breathing underwater through broken radio equipment. I whispered, "Where are you?" The voice responded, "Inside signal depth." I frowned. That's not a location. The system replied instantly, "It is now." I looked at my console. Water stains appeared on the desk, not physically leaking, just appearing, spreading slowly across the surface. I stepped back. "What is happening?" I whispered. The radio answered softly. "The signal remembers drowning." I shook my head. That's not how radio works. Then the voice came back. Neither did roads, until they needed somewhere to go. I stopped. The water on my desk rippled, even though nothing touched it, and inside the radio static, I heard my own breathing, but delayed, like it was happening somewhere else first. I leaned closer. "Who is this?" I asked. A pause. Then, "All units currently submerged in transmission." I froze. "We are not underwater," I said. The voice replied softly, "Not yet." It appeared at 3:17 a.m. A new frequency. No label. Just unknown channel active. I hesitated, then opened it. Mistake. Immediately, breathing. Deep, wet, controlled. Like someone learning how to breathe inside water that wasn't fully there. I whispered, "Who is this channel assigned to?" No answer. Then the breathing spoke. Not words, just rhythm, in and out, like a pattern. The system tried to decode it. Failure. Non-terrestrial signal structure. I frowned. "That's not possible," I said, but the pattern kept repeating. Slow, patient, alive. Then I realized something. It wasn't random. It was counting. I leaned closer and heard it clearly. It was counting time between rescues. I froze because every pause matched missing units. Unit 14, Unit 9, Unit 3, each breath aligned with their last transmission. I whispered, "You're tracking them." The channel responded, "We are them." I stepped back. That's impossible. The breathing continued. Then, we did not disappear. We adapted. I swallowed. Into what? A pause. Then, into the part of the world that stays underwater after the flood leaves. My screen flickered, and for a second, I saw all missing units. Not in vehicles, not on roads, but suspended, inside dark water, still speaking into radios that were half submerged in something I couldn't see. The breathing got closer, too close. I whispered, "Stop." The channel replied softly, "You're already listening from inside it." At 4:01 a.m., every channel activated at once. No warning, no trigger, just synchronized voices. We are still driving. I froze, looked at the board. Every missing unit, every active unit, every frequency, all repeating the same phrase. I whispered, "Stop all transmissions." System responded, "Unable. Reason. All units currently active." I shook my head. That's not true, I said. Then Unit 14 came through again, closer than before. We are still driving past your station. I stood up, ran to the window. Nothing outside, but the radio continued. And we will pass again when the loop resets. I frowned. Loop? I whispered. The system replied. Evacuation cycle has completed 17 iterations. My stomach dropped. What happens after 17? I asked. No answer. Just silence. Then all units spoke at once. We restart the road. I felt cold. That's not possible, I said. But outside, I saw headlights. Again, same positions, same timing, same movement, replaying, looping. I whispered. This is a cycle. The radio answered softly. Yes, and you are inside it. I stepped back. The monitors flickered, and for the first time, I saw my own console logs. Not live, recorded, repeating, me answering calls that had not arrived yet. I whispered, when does it end? The system replied, when no one remains to hear, still driving. Then all channels went silent for exactly 1 second. Then, we are still driving. And I realized something horrifying. They weren't reporting survival. They were reporting continuation. And as long as someone was listening, the driving would never stop. The first call came before the alarm even triggered. That's what made it wrong. At 1:03 a.m., the system was still in standby mode. No alerts, no incidents, just quiet monitors and a dead city outside. Then the phone rang. I stared at it for a second. It wasn't supposed to ring yet. Not until something actually happened. I picked up. Emergency dispatch. I said. Static. Then a voice. Calm. Too calm. There will be a fire in Sector 4 in 6 minutes. I blinked. What? I asked. The voice didn't repeat. It continued. 2 people will try to escape through the south exit. It will be locked. My fingers froze on the desk. Sir, this is dispatch. If this is a report, I need real-time information. A pause. Then, I am giving you real-time information. I frowned. This is not how emergency calls work. The voice responded softly. Not yet. Then the line disconnected. I sat there for a second, staring at the receiver. No trace. No number. No log entry. Nothing. I leaned forward. Checked the system. Call history. Empty. I exhaled. Great. I muttered. Prank call. But then the alarm went off. Sector 4. Fire alert. My stomach tightened instantly. I opened the incident feed. Real-time camera feed showed smoke rising. Exactly like the call said. I went cold. 6 minutes. I whispered. I checked the timestamp of the call again. It was before the alert. Before anything happened. I stood up. This is impossible, I said quietly. The radio clicked, but I hadn't touched it. And a second call came in. Same voice. You're watching it now. I froze. Who is this? I demanded. No answer. Just breathing. Then, we told you what happened. I looked at the monitor. Fire unit response already en route. Everything matching. Too perfectly. Like the system was following instructions instead of detecting events. I whispered, this is prediction data, maybe AI forecasting. But even I didn't believe that. Because forecasting doesn't sound like fear. The voice returned again. We are not predicting. We are remembering forward. My skin tightened. What does that even mean? I asked. No answer. Just a click. Call ended. I leaned back, trying to breathe normally. Then the system updated itself. Incident completed, Sector 4. Timestamp from minutes ago. I froze. That's not possible. I whispered, because the fire was still burning on live feed. Still active. Still happening. But the system already marked it as finished. Like it had already seen the end. Before the beginning. The radio clicked again. And I didn't want to answer. But I did, because dispatch always does. The voice came back. Soft. Calm. Closer now. You will answer faster next time. I whispered. Next time? The voice paused. Then, there are more calls coming before alarms. The lights flickered once, and for a second, I saw the incident log scrolling by itself. Events that hadn't happened yet, already marked complete. The next call came 3 minutes later. I almost didn't pick it up, but it rang again, and again, I finally answered. "Dispatch," I said flatly. The voice came instantly. "You were sitting closer to the right side of your desk today." I froze. "What?" A pause. Then, "You shifted your chair 12 centimeters since your last call." My throat tightened. "Who is this?" I asked. No answer. Instead, "I can see your monitor glow reflecting in your eyes." I turned slightly. Cold spread through my chest. Because it was correct. Everything. I leaned closer to the mic. "This is not emergency protocol. Identify yourself." The voice didn't change tone. "You're right-handed, but you always reach for the left drawer first when you're confused." My hand stopped midair. I hadn't even noticed I was doing that. I pulled it back slowly. "Stop this," I said. The voice continued. "You're breathing slower now. That means you're scared." I swallowed. "Where are you?" I asked again. A pause. Then, "I am on the line you are holding." I looked at the receiver. It was shaking slightly, but no vibration, no mechanical reason, just movement, like it was alive. I whispered, "This is impossible." The voice responded immediately. "You say that every time." My chest tightened. "What do you mean every time?" A long pause. Then, "Every time I call you before the alarm." I froze. "That's not true," I said quickly. The system flickered, and for a second, I saw a log entry appear. "Call history. Multiple incoming events not displayed." I frowned. "What is that?" I whispered. The voice answered softly. "Things you refuse to remember." I leaned forward. "This is just one call," I said. "No," the voice replied. "You are just one version of the receiver." My hands went cold. "What does that mean?" I asked. No answer. Instead, "You blink slower when you don't want something to be real." I blinked and hated that it noticed. I stood up. "This is over," I said. "I'm disconnecting this line." The voice stopped me. "You already tried that in another version." I froze. "What version?" A pause. Then, "The one where you didn't pick up fast enough." My stomach dropped. The system suddenly updated. "Incident feed not yet occurred." I whispered, "That doesn't make sense." The voice came closer. "It will. And then, I'm calling again in 2 minutes." The line went dead. I stared at the phone. My hands were shaking now, and I realized something worse. I wasn't waiting for the next call. I was remembering it. The system updated itself without permission. That was the first sign. At 1:22 a.m., every incident log reshuffled. Not sorted, not organized, rewritten. I stared at the screen. "What are you doing?" I whispered. A new tab opened automatically. Timeline correction active. My chest tightened. "That's not a feature," I said. Then the calls started coming faster. Not ringing, arriving, already connected. A voice said, "Flood in Sector 2 completed." Another, "Building collapse resolved." Another, "Missing persons accounted for." I froze. "None of those happened yet." I whispered. The system responded instantly. "They have..." I shook my head. "No," I said, "we would have reports." The system paused. Then, "You do, just later." My throat tightened. "What does that mean?" The screen flickered, and I saw it. Events marked in the future. Already completed. Before dispatch even received them. I whispered, "This is wrong." The radio clicked, and the voice returned. "You are looking at time from the wrong side." I froze. "What side?" I asked. A pause. Then, "The side where consequences arrive before choices." My breathing slowed. "This is impossible," I said again, but the system didn't argue anymore. It just showed me more. Calls that hadn't happened. Incidents already closed. And worst of all, my own responses already written. I whispered, "Someone is writing this." The voice answered softly, "Yes." and you are reading it as it happens. The monitor flickered, and I saw myself on screen, sitting at the desk, answering calls I hadn't received yet. I stepped back. "That's not me," I whispered. The system replied. "It is just earlier." The radio clicked again, and the voice came back. "You will understand better after the next shift." I froze. "There is no next shift," I said. The voice paused. Then, "There always is." It started with a call marked "Incident. Internal dispatch failure." I frowned. "Internal?" I whispered. I opened it. "Dispatch," I said. A pause. Then, "There is smoke inside your control room." I looked up instantly. Nothing. Clean air. Silent room. "No," I said. "There isn't." The voice replied calmly. "Check again." I hesitated. Then I smelled it. Burning plastic. Slow. Weak. I turned slightly. Smoke wasn't outside. It was appearing inside the monitor, leaking out of the screen edges. I stepped back. "This is not real," I said. The voice responded softly. "You are inside the incident now." My heart pounded. "What incident?" I asked. A pause. Then, "The one you are reporting." I froze. That makes no sense. The system suddenly updated. "Incident status. Dispatch center fire active." I stared at it. "No," I whispered. "That's impossible." But the smoke was thicker now. Inside the system. Inside the feed. Inside the reflection of my own face. I backed away. "This is not happening," I said. The voice came closer. "It is happening where you observe it." I shook my head. "What does that mean?" The system replied. "Dispatch is no longer outside events. It is inside them." My hand shook, and then I saw it. On the monitor. Me, sitting at the desk. Calm, answering a call I hadn't heard yet. But I was standing. "So who was that?" I whispered. "Stop this." The voice responded softly. "You are the call now." They shut everything down at 2 a.m. Official protocol. Emergency termination. Power cut. System reset. But the phone kept ringing. Even in the dark. Even with no power. I sat in the empty building. Waiting. Because I couldn't leave. Not yet. The phone rang again. I picked up. Silence. Then, "You are still answering." I whispered. "There is no system online." The voice replied softly. "You are the system now." I froze. "What does that mean?" I asked. A pause. Then, "Every call you answered became part of you." I looked around the dark room. Empty. Dead. But still listening. The voice continued. "And now there is no one left to answer, except you." I whispered. "This is over." The voice responded gently. "No. It continues when you stop believing it does." The phone rang again. I didn't want to pick it up, but I did, because silence felt worse. "Dispatch," I said. The voice came instantly. "You are still here." I closed my eyes. "I don't want this." I whispered. A pause. Then, "You already accepted it in the first call." I froze. The lights flickered once, even though there was no power. And I realized something. The building wasn't running the system. The system was running the building. The voice came one last time. Calm. Final. There is no disconnect option. And the phone kept ringing. Even after I put it down. Even after I left the room. Even after I turned away. Because some lines don't end. They just wait for someone to answer again. The storm warning started at 11:47 p.m. and it never stopped. That was the first thing that felt wrong. I was on night shift at the weather emergency desk. Quiet room. Old monitors. Coffee gone cold for hours. Then the broadcast system clicked on by itself. Severe weather alert. Heavy storm approaching coastal and inland regions. Repeat. Severe weather alert. I sighed. Normal. Routine. But then it repeated again. Same voice. Same tone. No update. No change. Just looping. I leaned forward. "Okay, manual override." I muttered. I tried to stop it. System response. Access denied. I frowned. "That's not possible." I whispered. I tried again. Still denied. The broadcast kept going. But something changed on the third loop. The voice hesitated, just for half a second, then continued, but it sounded closer, like it wasn't coming from speakers anymore, like it was inside the room. I looked around. Empty, only blinking screens and the hum of servers. I laughed nervously. Okay, that's new, I said under my breath. Then the system updated. No termination signal received. I blinked. What termination signal? I asked. No answer. Just the broadcast. Again and again. But now I noticed something else. Each loop was slightly different. Not weather data. Not warnings. Names. At first, I thought I misheard. But then it came again. Storm intensity rising near Sector 7. Operator Daniel H. I froze. That's me? I whispered. I sat up straight. The voice continued. Operator Daniel H. is advised to remain at station until further notice. My hands went cold. That's not par weather data. I said quickly. I checked the system logs. No mention of my name. No tag. Nothing. But the broadcast kept repeating it. Every loop. Different operators now. Different names. Each one real. Each one present somewhere in the building network. I stood up. This is a glitch, I told myself. But my voice didn't sound confident. The lights flickered once. Just once. And the broadcast paused. Dead silence hit the room. I felt my chest tighten. Then the voice came back. But it wasn't the system voice anymore. It sounded like me. Same tone. Same breathing pattern. It said, "You are still listening." I stepped back. What? I whispered. The monitors flickered, and I saw something I shouldn't have. A live feed at my own desk, from a different angle. Slightly delayed. Slightly wrong. Me sitting. Me standing. Me reacting before I moved. I shook my head. No, no, no. I muttered. The broadcast resumed. But now it wasn't weather warnings. It was instructions. For me, do not leave the station. Do not silence the system. Storm is already inside observation. I backed away slowly. My chair creaked behind me. Even though I hadn't touched it, the voice returned again. Calm. Closer. You heard the first warning too early. I whispered. Too early for what? No answer. Just static. Then the broadcast loop restarted. But now the storm wasn't outside. It was inside the system. Inside the feed. Inside the station walls. And I suddenly understood something I didn't want to understand. This wasn't a weather warning. It was an announcement that something was already happening, and we were still being told about it after it began. The forecast changed at 0:13 a.m., but nobody updated it. I watched it happen in real time. The screen refreshed itself, and the first thing I saw was my name. Forecast advisory for Operator Daniel H. I stepped back instantly. That's not possible. I whispered. I clicked refresh. Same thing. I checked the system logs. Nothing. No permission change. No edit history. But the forecast was already rewritten. Wind speeds, storm paths, and names. Names of everyone on shift. Appearing in weather reports like they belonged there. Like they were part of the storm. Then the speaker crackled. And the forecast voice spoke again. But this time slower. Personal. It will rain harder when you doubt it. I frowned. What does that mean? I said out loud. No answer. But outside the window, the rain changed. It wasn't heavier. It was reactive, like it waited, paused, then increased. Every time I looked at the screen, I stepped closer. No! I whispered. That's coincidence. I turned away from the window. Rain slowed instantly. I turned back. It increased again. My breathing got shallow. This is not real, I said. The system responded immediately. Denial acknowledged. I froze. Then another line appeared. Operator Daniel H. is advised to monitor emotional stability during precipitation events. I stepped back. That's not weather protocol, I said. The speaker clicked, and a new voice came in. Not system generated. Not synthetic. Human, it said. Daniel, why are you ignoring us? I froze completely, because that voice, Sounded like my coworker, but he was not on the line. I checked the roster. He wasn't even on shift. I whispered, "Who is this?" The reply came instantly. "We are inside the forecast now." My stomach dropped. I looked at the screen again and saw something new. Forecast map. But instead of cities, it showed rooms. Hallways. Our station layout. Weather moving through it, like it was inside the building. I backed away. No, no, no. I muttered again. The rain outside suddenly hit the window harder. But only one side of the building reacted. The side facing the server room, like it knew where the system lived. The voice returned. Calm, almost curious. "Why do you think weather is outside you?" I didn't answer. My throat was dry. Then the forecast updated again. Humidity rising inside operator Daniel H. I whispered, "That's not how humidity works." The system responded, "Not yet." I froze. The word hung there. Not yet, like it was waiting, like everything was still loading. I turned off the monitor. It turned itself back on. I unplugged it. It stayed on. My hand started shaking. "This is impossible," I said. The voice came one last time. Soft. Too close. "You are not observing the storm anymore. You are inside its report." And then the forecast ended. Not because it stopped, but because it no longer needed updating. It started when I spoke into the radio. "Dispatch to weather control, status check." Silence. Then rain outside stopped. Instantly, like the world paused to listen. I frowned. "What the—" I tried again. Repeat status requests. The rain started again, but differently, slower, like it was responding. I froze. "That's not possible," I whispered. Then the radio crackled, and a voice came back. But it wasn't from dispatch. It said, "We heard you." I stepped back. "Who is this?" I demanded. No answer. Instead, the rain outside shifted direction. Not wind-driven. Intentional. Like it turned to face the building. I stared out the window. "This is insane," I muttered. Then I spoke again into the radio. "Stop the weather manipulation." The rain stopped. Dead silence. Then it started again inside the building. I turned quickly. "What?" I whispered. Drip sounds. Inside vents. Inside walls. Inside speaker casing. But outside, dry. Completely dry. I felt my chest tighten. "This is impossible," I repeated. The radio clicked again. The voice returned. "You are learning how it listens." I whispered. "Who listens?" A pause. Then, "Everything you speak into us becomes weather." I stepped back. That makes no sense. The rain outside suddenly formed patterns. Not random drops. Shapes. Letters. My name. Across the glass. I stumbled back. "No!" I whispered. The voice continued. "You asked for response systems. We gave you one." I shook my head. "This is not communication." The voice replied softly. "It is reaction." The rain intensified suddenly. Only around my building. Not outside city range. Just here. Just me. I backed away from the window and realized something worse. Every time I spoke, the storm learned faster, like it was training on my voice. I whispered, "Stop listening." The rain stopped instantly, too instantly, like it was waiting for that exact instruction. Then silence again. The radio clicked one final time, and the voice said, "Say it again." And I didn't, because I understood now. It wasn't responding to weather. Weather was responding to me. The sky wasn't visible anymore. Not because of clouds. Because it was open. That's the only way I can describe it. At 1:42 a.m., every system screen shifted at once. Static, then alignment, then a new channel appeared. Unauthorized frequency detected. I leaned closer. "This is not radio spectrum." I whispered. Then it activated. A voice came through. Not from Earth. Not from stations. From above. "You are now receiving direct atmosphere transmission." I froze. "What does that mean?" I asked. The voice answered instantly. "You are inside range." I stepped back. "No," I said. "That's impossible." But then I heard it. Wind. Inside the room. Not outside. Inside. Moving through cables. Through metal. Through breath. I covered the mic. This is not real. I whispered. The voice replied softly. You asked for sky-level data. We are answering. I shook my head. No one asked for this. The system responded. You did. Every time you monitored weather. My hands went cold. Then the monitor showed something new. A sky map, but upside down, looking down at us. At me, at the station. I whispered. We are being observed. The voice corrected me. No, you are being read. I froze. What's the difference? I asked. A pause. Then one watches. The other absorbs. The wind inside the room grew stronger. Paper lifted. Screens flickered. And I saw something in the static. Shapes. Moving. Not clouds. Not storms. Something like eyes forming in pressure systems. I stepped back. This is not atmospheric science. I said. The voice replied. No, this is transmission from above the storm layer. I whispered. Above. The screen changed again, and I saw it. A horizon that didn't belong to Earth. A sky folded inward, and something looking back. I stumbled. No, I whispered. The voice came closer. Calm. Final. You are now part of the frequency. And then, the sky stopped being above us. I tried shutting everything down. Power. Systems. Backup. Emergency override. Nothing worked. Because nothing was running anymore. Except me. That's what I realized at 2:10 a.m. The room wasn't operating the broadcast. I was. The voice came one last time. Not from speakers. From inside my thoughts. You were still transmitting. I shook my head. No, I whispered. I'm trying to stop it. The voice replied gently. You cannot stop what is already received. I looked at the screen. It showed live broadcast status. Active. Source. Operator Daniel H. I froze. That's not possible, I said, but my voice echoed back through speakers I didn't control. I whispered. I never authorized transmission. The system replied. You did when you listened. Silence filled the room. Heavy. Alive. Then I understood. Everything I had been hearing was not incoming. It was outgoing. The storm warnings, the forecasts, the sky frequency. All of it was me or something using me. The voice returned. Soft. Final. You are still inside the emergency feed. I stepped back slowly. What does that mean? I asked. A pause. Then, there's no outside. The monitors flickered, and I saw myself again, but not as operator, as signal, broadcasting, repeating, endlessly. And I realized a final truth. I was never receiving emergency transmissions. I was the emergency transmission. And somewhere, someone else was answering my call.